Well, good morning, everyone. It's the morning after our incident. And what I mean by incident is we took the Acura CL out for its first time this year, and well, we ended up having to tow it back. Unfortunately, these things happen, but what's really shocking here, or maybe not shocking, is that I think I missed something, which resulted in us breaking down and then having to be towed back. So this video is going to go into what that is, show you how, as much as you may learn from the videos that I make, that I still make mistakes. And if I only showed you the good things, then that wouldn't be right. So we're going to show you what happened on this car. Hopefully you'll learn something from it. And so when you go through these steps and processes of, um, rehabilitating a car or fixing your car, that you keep an eye out for these type of events so that you're aware and can spot them early on and don't have to have a tow truck come and rescue you and your wife as well. But this video, I think, is more about how to be humble, right? So as we go through, we've got this ego about fixing cars and making sure that it's done right. And people kind of, posture about and put things on the internet that exudes their confidence or exudes their skill level. And I think I've done a very good job over the years of showing you how to do things correctly, but in this case, I did not do something correctly, and that ended up biting us. Thankfully, I don't think it's anything catastrophic. We'll find out for sure in the video when we get into this. But I think what happened is one little thing that I forgot to do, and I think it's because I work on these cars over the winter. And so I break them up into chunks of work, a couple hours at a time. Instead of doing one thing from beginning to end, I end up having to do something maybe a quarter of the way or half the way, and then end up walking away from it and then coming back to it. And because of that, I don't always go through my process of checks and making sure that the car is working correctly or will function correctly. And so I think what happened here is I got halfway into this job and then I didn't do it all the way. And so then it failed while we were out on the road. Thankfully, like I said, I don't think it's anything catastrophic, and we'll get the car back on the road shortly here. But that's why they call them shakedown runs, right? So you should be prepared anytime that you do a mass amount of work or you do something significant like what we've done here over the winter, which is replace all the brake lines that are rusted, replace all the clutch line, and we put in a new clutch. We did a bunch of work here that basically required a disassembly of a bunch of things and then having to reassemble that back. And sometimes we miss things, and that's what happened here. So that's enough talk. Let's go ahead and get into the video and show you how I mess something up. So good morning, everyone. Today we have a bit of an issue with the CL. I took it out for its inaugural shakedown and, well, I had to tow it back. So what does that mean for us? It means that we get to diagnose what's going on with the CL. Just a quick overview of what happened. I was able to drive it about a mile down the road, and then when I got a mile down the road, lost all drivetrain power. So whatever occurred, unfortunately, took out the drive line. I have an idea of what it is. Hopefully, it's not the worst of those two ideas. Hopefully, that this is just a quick diagnosis and an oversight on my part, which will then allow us to quickly put the car back together and back on the road. But that's why we do shakedown runs, and that's why we have tow services for situations like this. So you can see that we got the car back into the garage. The tow guy was able to accommodate us by allowing us to back the truck right up to our entryway here in the garage, and then we quickly put it back up on jack stands. Unfortunately, we had to back it in. Not my preferred way of doing it, but that's where we are this morning. We'll go ahead and hook up a light, start looking at what it might be, and take a look at how we're going to fix this. Okay, sorry about the background noise, but we're trying to heat the garage up still. I did want to show this. This is clearly some transmission fluid leaking out. And when we look up here, that drive shaft is not in all the way. So either it popped out or I did not put it in all the way. Either way, though, that's likely the cause of our problem. And that's pretty normal in the sense that it's not normal, but it happens quite frequently on Honda transmissions. You have to overcome the circ clip to get it in, and if you don't, then your drive shaft doesn't go in all the way. So that's probably our problem right there. This different. Okay, so we got the drive shaft out. Now we can see the problem right away. You see the end of the drive shaft right there. There's no teeth there. That means that we did not get the drive axle in all the way during our reassembly process, is my guess. And what happened was is it was able to ride a little bit on those teeth at the outer edge before the clip. And then when it finally took out all those teeth, it was like, sayonara, you're done. So thankfully, this is not the end of the world, so to speak. We can get this fixed and we can get ourselves back on the road here. Now we do have to do some cleanup here. There is obviously metal shavings within the transmission from the splines on that drive shaft. So our job will be to clean everything up, make sure everything is good to go, and then we'll inspect the transmission inlet right there just to make sure that We didn't do any internal damage. My guess is we didn't because the transmission itself is far stronger than that little bit of drive shaft. So I don't suspect that we'll have a problem here, but you know, I'm owning up to my problem here, owning up to my fault. I did not make sure that the drive shaft was in all the way, clearly. You know, this happens. Those clips at the end, you see that little metal ring at the end of that drive shaft? Those are sometimes hard to overcome, and if you don't get complete insertion into your transmission, this is what happens, and it'll leave you stranded on this side of the road. All right, so here's the proof. We've got our splines at the end of our magnet. So we'll continue fishing these out, inspect the transmission just to make sure that we didn't do any damage, and then we'll fully insert the drive shaft this time. I'm debating whether I want to change it out or not, but luckily I don't think it's going to matter because once we get all the full engagement there, then it'll probably be fine. Maybe we could debate whether I should remove that drive shaft completely, but I think that it's likely going to be fine because you use those teeth as a guide for the main portion on the inside, and then you're good to go. So you can see that's what it looks like. We got a little bit of transmission fluid leaking out. That's to be expected because we literally didn't have a drive shaft installed there. So we'll just make sure everything's hunky-dory and we'll put it back together correctly this time. Okay, so we've got the drive shaft fully inserted now. You can see it's further into the transmission and positive engagement was felt. And we've already got the drive shaft hooked up over here and our lower ball joint almost all the way in there. So we're starting to put this back together and we'll test it here in just a few minutes. Okay, so one of the issues that we have is we're going to have to figure out how much transmission fluid was lost. So I know that I put in precisely the right amount every single time. And what I'm going to do is I have a drain pan here that's all cleaned out. Nice and fresh, no debris, no nothing. And we're going to drain the transmission fluid and then we're going to measure how much is in the transmission so that we know how much we need to make up when we refill it. That will allow us to make sure that we have the proper amount in there. Additionally, went ahead and cleaned up right around the transmission where it was leaking. And so now we'll know if the seal is bad too. We did replace the seal when we did the transmission out job for the clutch. So this should be pretty straightforward. We'll go ahead and drain it out right now, measure how much is in there, and then refill appropriately. Okay, so we've got our transmission fluid and we're starting to measure it out. We've got pretty clean fluid here, which is good and expected. We just put this in. And we're looking for 2.3 quarts, so this can measure 2 cups, and there's 4 cups in a quart. So we're going to have to do this a bunch of times, but it's the most accurate and cost-effective way of doing this so that we don't waste any of the fluid. You know, you could err on the side of caution and just refill it with brand new, but this is essentially brand new fluid. It only has 1 mile on it before we had this issue, so we're going to reuse it. And as long as I don't see any large particles in it, it's going to be good to go, and we're going to send it. We were able to measure everything here, so we got it all into the transmission, and what we have different is exactly half a quart. So we lost half a quart between the tow truck and placing it back in and the drive and all that. So that's not that bad. We have half a quart readily available, so that means that I can put it back in and we can go ahead and test and see if everything functions as expected. Hopefully, cross fingers, nothing else happened in that process. So we'll fill it back up with 1 more half quart and we'll be on our way. Well, I hope that was a lesson to you as well as a lesson to us, because sometimes these things happen. And no matter how diligent you are or vigilant against making sure that your car doesn't break down, sometimes it just happens because you missed something. And in this case, we missed inserting the drive shaft all the way, which then caused the teeth at the end of the drive shaft to strip out. Not the end of the world, because those are just really guidance for the rest of the drive shaft. But the important thing and the important lesson for me was, make sure you do a full check before you go out on your first drive. We could have avoided the fee of a tow truck if we just simply got under the car and did a quick inspection to make sure that those drive shafts were in all the way. We were able to reinsert it, take it out on a drive just up and down the road, and found that the drivability is just fine now. And thankfully for us, it didn't require us pulling the transmission back out and doing anything with the clutch. Seems like everything there is good. So on this video, we learned an important lesson, and hopefully we pass that along to you. So that'll be it for now. We'll see you on the next one.